Chapter 14, Child of Shadows. Sunny had no choice but to rely on one final, desperate gamble. He had no hope of defeating Hero in a direct confrontation, not without an edge. Bloodbane poison had been his hidden card, but it turned out to be nearly useless. Even his ability to see in the dark was of little help. Somehow, Hero could sense his surroundings without light, whether through hearing or some magical means. But none of that mattered now. They had left the cave and stood beneath the pale moonlight. Sunny had only one advantage left, the knowledge that the Mountain King was blind, something Hero did not know. Acting on that knowledge was easier said than done. But what other choice did he have? So he stayed silent and rang the silver bell. If the description hadn't lied, the ringing would carry for miles. Surely the tyrant would hear it. Now all he could do was stall for time and hope the monster came. As he stood there in the cold, Hero's confusion slowly turned to anger. "Tell me right now, or you'll regret it." His voice was full of menace, but Sunny said nothing. He just shivered, resisting the urge to groan from the pulsing pain in his chest. "Why aren't you answering?" Sunny didn't dare respond. He held his breath and watched, horrified, as the familiar, colossal figure appeared behind Hero. His heart thundered in his chest, so loud he feared the tyrant might hear it. But no, it couldn't be louder than Hero's voice. Still talking, still turning himself into the only source of noise on the mountain. A flicker of realization dawned in Hero's eyes. He began to turn, sword rising in a flash. But it was too late. A massive hand emerged from the shadows, seizing him in an iron grip. Bone claws scraped against his armor, tearing it apart. The Mountain King dragged Hero backward, barely acknowledging the sword slashing at its wrist. Saliva streamed from its open maw. Paralyzed with fear, Sunny turned and staggered up the old, winding path. Then he ran as fast as he could. Behind him, a desperate scream pierced the night, followed by a furious roar. Hero wasn't going down easily, but his fate was sealed. Sunny didn't care. "I'm sorry, Hero," he thought. "I said I'd watch you die. But, as you know, I'm a liar. So die alone." A solitary, dark mountain loomed against the stormy winds. Jagged and proud, it towered above the others, cutting into the night sky like a blade. The moon cast its slopes in ghostly silver light. Beneath that light, a young man reached the summit. He looked nothing like a hero. Pale-skinned, black-haired, wounded and staggering. He looked more corpse than man. His tunic and cloak were torn and bloodied, eyes sunken and clouded, lips frothy with blood. Each breath was a struggle. Each step brought pain. And above all else, he was cold. So cold. All he wanted was to lie down and sleep. But still, he climbed, because he believed the nightmare would end at the peak. Step, one more step. Finally, he made it. A broad plateau covered in snow stretched before him. In its center stood a magnificent temple, cut from black marble, bathed in moonlight. Colossal, ancient, and beautifully adorned, it looked like the palace of a dark god, or it had once. Now it lay in ruins. Cracks marred the stones. The roof had partially collapsed. The tall gates were shattered, as if smashed by a giant's hand. Still, Sunny smiled weakly. "Found you," he said hoarsely. He limped forward, thoughts muddled. "See this, Hero?" he thought, forgetting Hero was already dead. "You were strong and ruthless. I was weak and timid. But now you're a corpse, and I'm still alive. Funny, isn't it?" A jagged breath escaped him as his broken ribs stabbed deeper into his lungs. Blood spilled from his lips. "Actually, it's not funny. What do you even know of ruthlessness? In the world I come from, cruelty is an art, and I've been its canvas. You never stood a chance." He stumbled, forgot what he was thinking, and walked on. "Don't fall asleep. It's hypothermia. If you sleep, you die." He reached the temple steps, oblivious to the thousands of bones scattered around, human and monstrous alike, all victims of unseen guardians. As he climbed, a formless guardian approached, ready to snuff out his feeble life. But it paused, sensing something familiar, the faint scent of divinity from Sunny's soul. Sorrowful, the guardian stepped aside. Sunny entered the temple. Moonlight poured through holes in the collapsed roof. Deep shadows surrounded the patches of silver light. The floor was covered in snow and ice. At the far end, a black marble altar stood untouched by snow. Sunny headed toward it, not knowing why. He just wanted to sleep. The altar was clean, dry, as wide as a bed. He climbed on top and lay down. He was ready to die. But before he could close his eyes, a noise stirred him. He turned toward the entrance, not curious, just tired. There stood the Mountain King. It stared at him with 5 blind eyes, grotesque and terrifying. Worm-like shapes wriggled beneath its flesh. It sniffed, drooled, and stepped forward. What an ugly bastard, Sunny thought, and coughed violently. Blood flew from his mouth and splattered the altar, only to be absorbed into the black marble, leaving it pristine once more. The tyrant reached out to grab him, and then, suddenly, a voice echoed through the temple. You have offered yourself as a sacrifice to the gods. The gods are dead and cannot hear you. Your soul bears the mark of divinity. You are a temple slave. Shadow God stirs in his eternal slumber. He sends a blessing from beyond the grave. Child of shadows, receive your blessing. Before Sunny's eyes, the shadows in the temple stirred. Like living things, they surged forward, tendrils of darkness wrapping around the Mountain King. The tyrant roared and struggled, but it was futile. No creature could resist the will of a god. The shadows pulled, tearing the beast apart. Flesh, blood, bone. It all rained down in a torrent of gore. And just like that, the tyrant was dead. Sunny blinked. He was alone again, the temple silent and dark. Then the spell whispered, You have slain an awakened tyrant, Mountain King. Wake up, Sunless. Your nightmare is over. Prepare for appraisal.